In today's show, perhaps clarity is better than luck. The Blazers slip in the draft lottery, and now 3 weeks out from the NBA draft lottery, at least they know what their odds will officially be. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we're talking all things NBA draft lottery. The NBA today cleared up the tiebreakers, and Portland knows at least what its odds will be when the lottery finally comes around in the middle of May. We're about 3 weeks out from determining the NBA draft order, but at least clarity, if not bad luck, was offered to the Blazers on what it's going to look like. So we'll talk about that. The Blazers have the 10th best lottery odds in the NBA. We'll talk about all of what that means, all what was settled, and look ahead to the Blazers draft chances. We'll talk about the draft lottery in general, some names to know at 10 and 11, the Blazers' most likely draft slots when the order is finally decided, and then as well as maybe some thoughts on how the Blazers should approach this draft considering where they are likely to land. But let's just get you the news. Let's talk about what actually happened. The NBA on Monday. You're listening to Tuesday, April 22nd's program. I appreciate you listening. The NBA on Monday clarified the ties across the league, and I've been calling it a coin flip. I think it's a random drawing tiebreaker, but a coin flip sounds better. That's what it is. It's either you or the other, you the other team, except in the situations when it's multiple teams tied. A random drawing determines the order, and the Blazers, who had the same record as Phoenix Suns, at 36 and 46, lost the tiebreaker. So Phoenix ends up with the 9th best odds. Portland Trailblazers finish 10th. How it works in the lottery is you split the odds in half, and then there's one remaining combo, and that one remaining combo goes to Phoenix. But the lottery is only for the top 4 slots, so it also determines order should either of those teams not get the lottery. It also determines order for second-round draft picks. As well, that wasn't the only tiebreaker that was cleared up. We'll talk more about the Blazers situation in a second. The Mavericks won the tiebreaker over the Bulls. They're 11, Chicago 12. Sacramento wins the tiebreaker over the Hawks. The Kings will get 13, and the Hawks, the final pick in the lottery, at 14. Memphis won a 3-team tiebreaker over Golden State and Milwaukee. It'll be Memphis at 18, Golden State 19, and Milwaukee at 20. And the Los Angeles Lakers won a 4-way tiebreaker over Denver, Indiana, and the LA Clippers, their former building mates there in downtown Los Angeles, before they kick the Clippers out to Inglewood. Lakers 22, Denver 23, Indiana 24, and the Clippers finally at 25. Or excuse me, Indiana 23, the Clippers at 24, and Denver finally at 25. That's now we know the full-on draft order. What does it mean for the Blazers? Well, instead of getting 17.3% chance at a top 4 pick and slightly better odds at the top overall pick, here's where they end up with the 10th best lottery odds. They are behind Phoenix, who's 9th. And Portland will have a 16.9% chance at picking in the top 4. 3.7 at 1, 4% chance at 2, 4.4% chance at 3, and 4.8% chance at 4. Again, the lottery is only for the top 4 picks. So by finishing with the 10th worst lottery odds, the Blazers can only finish 10, 11, 12, 13, or 14. Those are those spots, or they can jump into the top 4, but you can't climb to the middle. The Blazers overwhelmingly likely position to be by finishing with the 10th best lottery odds or the 10th worst lottery odds, depending on how you want to say it, is 10th overall. They have a 63% chance at picking 10th and an 18.5% chance at picking 11. That means on lottery day on May 12th, the Blazers will have a 81.9% chance at picking 10 or 11. To be clear, the difference in the lottery odds didn't dramatically change their situation. If they had been if they had been jumped up a spot, they would have, with Phoenix, they would have had a 79% chance at picking 9 or 10. They're now at 80% chance at picking 10 or 11. You would have had a chance to pick 9th and not 10th. You definitely want that. I was going to make a joke that today's show, 17 reasons why it's better that the Blazers are 10th and not 9th. Yeah, I don't believe that. I mean, you just want to make decisions before other teams. You always want to be higher on the draft board because lower number but higher up in the order, because you want to make decisions before the other teams. Like, you just, even if you get it right, you want a chance to get it right before anyone else can do it. The flattened lottery odds have indeed, I think they've changed the incentives a little bit, because I think there's more teams that kind of get caught in the Blazers range that tend to be like, oh, we need to lose, like the Raptors pulling some shenanigans and et cetera, and maybe like at Phoenix kind of like saying, well, who cares at the end of the year, although they did go for it for real. But I think they're kind of getting more teams in the mix because of the flattened lottery odds, which changed after 2019. I'm not going to pitch you on the Blazers like, a 17% chance at top 4 picks. Fine. It's not ideal probably for where they ended up and where they are as a franchise, but it's the path they chose and it's where they are. At this point, lamenting it doesn't seem particularly valuable. 82% chance of picking 10 or 11, your expectations change. But since they flattened the lottery odds in 2019, while I do think it has increased tanking for the sort of the middle bad teams a little bit, it probably has done its job in making it so the flattened lottery odds plus the incentive of the play-in term has probably in general curtailed some of the most egregious tanking, although we've certainly seen plenty of egregious tanking over the years. It can't be perfect if there is a lottery system and an odds-based lottery system. But since it's changed, there have been 5 drafts with the new lottery odds, and 6 drafts since the lottery odds, and 4 of the 6 winners have finished with one of the 3 worst records in the league. It is overwhelmingly more valuable to have one of the bottom picks, even if you are more likely, or one of the worst records in the league because you're likely to get a high pick, even if you're more likely always with those top picks to fall. You're much more likely to fall 4 spots than you are to climb, but you do get increased odds. The first year they did it, New Orleans climbed up with the 7th worst odds and got Zion in 2019. Minnesota finished with the 3rd worst record in 2020 and got Anthony Edwards. In 2021, the Detroit Pistons had the 2nd worst record in the NBA and won the lottery and drafted Cade. The following year in 2022, the Orlando Magic also had the 2nd worst record in the league, or the 2nd best lottery odds, should we say, and jumped up and drafted Paolo Banchero. In 2023, the Spurs jumped from the 3rd slot in the lottery and got Victor Wembanyama. Has he been helpful? And in 2024, the Hawks made the biggest jump in the new lottery odds system when they jumped from 10th all the way to the top spot in the lottery and got Zachary Sachet, who was a finalist for Rookie of the Year. I will say this: each drawing is a random event. You just want to have better odds. The fact that the Hawks have jumped up in the past and New Orleans has jumped up in the past, and that no team who has ever finished at the number 1 spot in the lottery has ever won the lottery since they changed the format or changed the odds weighting system in 2019. The odds are the odds. The numbers are the numbers. They're agnostic to good karma or ethical losing or whatever. They are indeed just numbers, number combinations, and a frequency of number combinations. I think we will get into the Blazers' position and where they are in the lottery, but in general, you want to lose more, and the Blazers didn't lose enough. Or perhaps they won the right amount. They showed some real progress this year by virtue of playing pretty good basketball, but when you get to this time of year, it is to be like, shoot, if they had lost one more game, they wouldn't have had this tiebreaker with the Suns. They wouldn't have split these odds with the Suns. Like, they would just have better odds. It's like you get to this second guessing stage. I am on record saying that I think the Blazers should have lost more games, so I will now let it go. I'm gonna set that one free for 2025. The Blazers only have 1 pick in this draft as they currently stand. It will be determined where that pick is in on May 12th's lottery date when they determine the draft order of the lottery picks. Everyone else just falls in order of your record, but the Blazers do not have a second-round pick in this draft. Way back when, in 2020, they traded their own second-rounder to the Sacramento Kings in a deal that brought Trevor Ariza to Portland. That pick has since been sent on to the Toronto Raptors when the Kings were doing some cost-cutting maneuvering to get DeMar DeRozan this summer. So the Raptors will pick in what would have been the Blazers slot, but Portland was owed a protected second-round pick from the Atlanta Hawks in what was the Gary Payton, Kevin Knox swap of a couple years ago. The Blazers got multiple second-round picks back in that deal, some of them protected to varying degrees, including this one from the Hawks, which was protected 41-59, which meant the Hawks would have had to have one of the 10 worst records in the league or the best record in the league in order for the Blazers to receive this pick. The Hawks, though, are indeed the Hawks. Of course they didn't have one of the 10 best records in the league, and of course they did not end up with the best record in the league or one of the bottom 10 in the league, because of course the Hawks didn't. They're the Hawks. They're in the middle forever and always. They finished tied for the 13th best lottery odds. In fact, it was just they dropped down to 14 technically in the draft lottery, but they were tied with the Kings for the 13th spot heading into today's tiebreaker. That pick Atlanta doesn't get to keep it. In fact, they moved it on to Oklahoma City because of course they do. They owed the Oklahoma City a pick, and because of some other maneuverings, changed the protections on the pick and sent that one to OKC. So the Blazers, as they stand now, one pick in the draft. We don't know where it is yet, but it is overwhelmingly likely an 82% chance to land at 10 or 11 in the draft odds. In fact, a 68% chance to land at 10. The most likely scenario is the card flips over on May 12th at the 10 spot. It's got the pinwheel on it. It's kind of a bummer, but whatever. This is what you do. And what you do is you try to find some guys you like or know at the 10th spot. So let's talk about in the second segment some names to know, some guys I like, and some people to keep an eye on as we head truly into draft season here in the final 10 days of April. Join me in that second segment and we will do just that. First, though, I want to tell you that today's program is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, and the NBA playoffs have arrived, which means FanDuel wants to hook it up right now. FanDuel, if you are a new customer, here's what they're going to do for you when you join. You place your first $5 bet. You'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. So go to FanDuel if you're a first-time user, sign up for an account, put down a $5 bet on something you're confident in. It can be extremely short odds, like something that is really very likely to happen. You win that first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets to play with, to do whatever you want with, whether you want to bet on NBA futures to win an NBA title, whether you want to bet on games, or you want to get in on elaborate player props. You can even combine those elaborate player props into live prop bets, so you can put them into a same-game parlay. You're watching a game, you can make live prop bets on three-pointers, steals, assists, rebounds, and so much more, and combine that into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right. Let's talk names to know in the 2025 NBA draft who are kind of going to be in that 10-11 range. I'm going to dive into these guys deeper as we get a little bit closer, particularly once the draft is decided. The draft isn't until the end of June. They do this about 2 months out every year, is get the tiebreakers settled. Then in 3 weeks, they'll do the draft lottery. Then we'll have a month from the draft lottery, or a little more than that, 5 weeks from the draft lottery to the NBA draft. We will get into it all. Like I'll have a bunch of draft folks on the show. I'll talk to people smarter than me who cover this year round and do it professionally and get you all plugged in on anything you might need to know about the NBA draft. But for now, I watch probably more college basketball over the last couple seasons than I typically would, and I'm not in order to become this like incredible expert on college hoops, because you can't be. I don't think you can watch a dude play like 1.5 games or even like 2 games and really get like an actual scouting sense. But you can form some opinions, and that's what I have. I have some opinions. So here's some guys I like and some names to know that are likely to be available at the 10 or 11 range for the Blazers. Derek Queen, center from Maryland. He's just fun. Like, he's skilled and he can pass and he's big. I'm a little worried. Like, and some some scouting reports you read say that, like, he could be a shooter in the league. And if he can shoot from distance in the NBA, then he's going to be a really interesting player. If he can't, then I think he's skilled enough to be a dude who plays in the league for a while, but I'm somewhat skeptical of drafting single position players in the modern NBA, particularly after the Blazers did that last couple drafts with Scoot Anderson and Donovan Clingan. Even if those dudes are really good, they don't give you a lot of optionality, and the league is all about optionality and versatility now. So, like, if you hit on Clingan, it looks like the Blazers, like, Donovan Clingan is good. Drafting another center is maybe not ideal. I probably would shy away from Derek Queen, but I like him. Concanipple from Duke. I'm not sure Concanipple has star upside, but he has dude who plays in the league a long time written all over him. He's just gonna play a long time. He can shoot. He's physical. He's got a little bit of off the bounce game. I'm very confident Concanipple is going to be a pro for a while. I'm less confident that he'll be like a high-level pro. More on that in a moment. Other names to know, Jace Richardson from Michigan State. He's like 6'5", 6'6"-ish. We haven't got his official measurements, but he's like not super big. He's probably like shooting guard sized, not quite big enough to play small forward in the league, doesn't have the skill set really to be a one in the league. Like, he's a combo guard that doesn't have a lot of combos. His combo is play shooting guard, but he can shoot. He has a little bit of defensive upside. Reading the scouting reports on him, and I saw him play probably parts of 3 games, certainly 2 full ones. But he's got some more playmaking stuff than he showed, particularly late in the season. Kind of unlocks a little more of his game. I like him as an NBA player because of the shooting and and he's Jason Richardson's kid, the pedigree. But like Again, like, I'm comfortable with him being a pro, but upside. And at 10 and 11, maybe you're not drafting necessarily for upside, right? Maybe you can, certainly you can take swings there. And there's some, there's obviously historical precedence of getting stars at that level, but like a realistic outcome is you're hoping that someone is like an NBA rotation player a plus rotation player. Are they a starter? Awesome. Are they like a 7th man forever, but they're a 7th man forever? They're 15 years of being a 7th man? Awesome. The next name to know, he's dropping down draft boards a little bit, but Kasparas Jakučiūnas, the big sort of wingy point guard from Illinois, he's like 6'6" playmaker. I really like him. He's my style of player, right? Like, he's big. He uses his frame well to get to the rim. He's a really smart passer, and he can shoot a little bit, but he's not like a lights out shooter. There's some questions maybe about his overall athleticism and who he guards in the league. Like, my question with him is like, what position do you think he is? Because if he's like a point guard on offense, because he's like ball in his hands playmaker type, then who does he guard on defense? Can he play? I think that's, he's big and strong and has a lot of skill, but it's like, I think he's kind of where he fits in the modern NBA with his like level of athleticism and level of shooting, quite frankly, make him a little tricky, but I like him. Other names know Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina. He's fun, like a 6'7" tweener beast, right? Like at South Carolina, he's just a monster in the post. He can really defend. He's got some passing chops. But like as a college kid, he mostly just like mashed in the post, like I said, like he mostly just he bullied folks. Is a 6'7" post bully a thing in the NBA? Probably not, right? But if you do, if you have enough other connective skills, defense, some rebounding, some athleticism, just some general strength, people are going to first compare you to Draymond Green, which is probably unfair, and second, like give you a chance to use your Swiss Army knife stuff in the league. And I think that's where Murray Boyles has the appeal. CMB has the appeal, is like, does his Swiss Army knife stuff play at the next level? Because he does have some gifts, right? And if he can figure out how to make those work with being kind of like a non-shooter at his size, he's kind of like a 6'7" center. Like if a non-shooter size, like maybe he's really intriguing. He's certainly a name that'll be bandied about in the Blazers range. And the last one that like sort of just name to know here is Asa Newell. I think he was higher on draft boards before. He's a 6'9" forward, kind of played a little bit of center at Georgia. I only saw him play one full game, but I've seen him play a little more than that, and I've done some YouTube scouting of Newell's game. But really good athlete who can rebound and defend. It's just everything else. It's like he's pretty raw skill-wise everywhere else as a shooter, and like he projects as someone who's like maybe he can like handle and like face-up game away from the rim and guard a bunch of different positions and rebound. Like he projects as this like sort of toolsy athletic wing. Who can defend and rebound. He does sound like a trailblazer when you put it like that. That's like kind of sort of a type that they've had. It's just like, does he have the skills to blossom into more than that? Like I think he has a wide range of outcomes, because if the offensive skill never comes around, he's just like, He's a guy who is, relying on sort of athletic frame, and he's kind of skinny, like athletic frame and that to like make it in the league. And where do you make it in the league if you don't develop a high level of skill? I want to talk a little bit about like how the Blazers maybe should approach the draft in the third segment to close the show, as well as like expectations at 10 and 11. And then we'll take a spin on the old Tankathon machine as our first of the season. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. We talked about where the Blazers are. We talked about names to know. So what do they do here? I think some of this is like we will know more going forward, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about this, but I want to speak briefly theoretically here on my thoughts. I do not think the Blazers are at a space in the league, space in their rebuild, space in their like roster building where they should worry even one little bit about fit. If they think Derek Queen is going to be the best NBA player among the bunch and they can get him at 10, they should draft him, right? It doesn't matter that they drafted Donovan Clingan. Same with every other position. Point guard, shooting guard, both forward spots. If you're worried like, well, what do they do with Tumani and Denny Avdia? Do not worry about that, because the best case scenario really is that one of these dudes you draft at 10 is like so good that you do have a logjam, right? Like there's minutes to be had. Like you can easily carve out minutes if you make some other roster decisions you're going to have to make anyways and figure out what to do with Jeremy Grant. And like the futures of, I would say, Chris Murray and Jabari Walker are somewhat unknown. I guess like the long-term future of Matisse Thybulle, although I'm fairly certain he'll be on the team next season. Like, yeah, like, you draft a player you think can play, and then you figure out whether he can play. Like, you just draft the best player available regardless of position. If you were drafting for need, the obvious need for the Blazers is shooting. Like, they just don't shoot very well. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the league. Although they got a little bit better this season compared to the season before, but they're still one of the bad shooting teams in the league. They're not a super high volume shooting 3-point shooting team, but that's not really their problem. Their problem is not volume. Their problem is accuracy. And like if you're moving forward, the best way to complement a lot of their players, I would say Scoot Henderson, Denny Avdia, is surround them with shooters, particularly if Shaedon Sharpe never morphs into an above average shooter, which he so far has not shown himself to be. But I don't think you draft for need. I don't think you draft for skill set. If you were to say, okay, Jace Richardson and Con Knippel, two of the names I mentioned earlier, like those guys project as shooters in the league, right? Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because you get the skill set, but you don't take them, I don't know what the Blazers think, obviously, but like you don't take them over guys who you think they're better. You would never make the move for skill set over best player available. Where the Blazers are, I think you basically never do that in the lottery period, and I don't think you do it unless you're like an actually good team that has real needs and you're drafting like, we need a dude who can play this position because we think we're like whatever in the inner circle of contenders and we have a need. Maybe then you say, okay, like whatever, Deron Holmes really fits exactly what we need because we're a little thin up front if you're the Nuggets. But in general, I don't think it makes sense for the Blazers to draft for that. Draft best player available. Just go for it. Don't worry about skill sets. Don't worry about those things. Even if you do need more playmaking, even if you do need some more shooting, I think in general they probably will eventually need more depth at center because of the sort of uncertain future of DeAndre Ayton entering the final year of his contract. But I don't think you need to move to address that right now because like DA is under contract. Like if you do have both DA and Donovan Clingan, you kind of like, obviously you're still going to need some depth, but like you don't want to invest too much into that, over-index too much of that spot. I think they could use some point guard help in terms of depth. I think they could use some guard help in general in terms of depth, and I don't think it would be a problem if they were to invest in forward spots at depth because you can always figure out more wings, and the Blazers played all those funky big lineups where Tumani Kamara was, or Denny Avdia, depending on how you want to slice it, was effectively a shooting guard. I would not worry about it. Speaking of not worrying about it, though, let's go to the draft lottery. Let's do it. Let's go over to our good friends over at Tankathon. We've done this in the past. It is a website that simulates the draft lottery. What we're going to do here to close the show is I'm going to take our first spin on the draft lottery. Oh, before we do that real quick, I want to talk about expectations. I think one of the things the Blazers are going to be kind of up against a little bit this year is like whether they are still in a longer tail mode and saying like, okay, what about Noah Asenge, like a teenager who played, a fairly high level European basketball, but like is probably not close to contributing. Maybe same with Asa Newell. Like, do you take a project with the acceptance that player might be 2 or 3 years away from positive impact, or do you make some decisions to try to be better in the near future? And I think that's one of the things the Blazers might bump up against is like, when does it matter that you're better? And I think that's kind of a tricky part of their position, right? Is like, when does it matter to them that they're better? To me, still take the long tail approach, but I think one of the things that they'll be balancing is, do you take a player that's closer to contributing, or do you consider making a trade for a player that's closer to contributing, or do you just say, hey, we're a lottery team, treat it like a normal lottery team, and take a high upside swing. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Or moreover, if it's going to be something that takes time to work out, we feel a level of patience. The Blazers are going to say that they're patient. That's a thing they're going to repeat a bunch ad nauseum over the next months every time you hear them talk in public. The truth will be whether they act patient, because I don't know that they acted patient this year in the way that they said they are indeed patient. Okay, with that said, let's spin this dang thing, shall we? Our first spin on the draft lottery of the 2025 season, right over here on our good friends at tankathon.com. Actually, I don't know these people, but I'm sure they're friendly. If you are listening on the audio, I will walk you through it. I'm pressing the button. This thing is spinning, and the Blazers finished in 10th. Washington wins the lottery. Utah 2. New Orleans jumps up a spot to 3. Philly keeps their pick, doesn't send it to OKC. They stay at 4. Charlotte drops down 2 spots to 5. Tough for the old Bugs and everyone else. Nobody else makes a major jump. Brooklyn, Toronto, San Antonio, Houston getting that Phoenix pick, and the Blazers at 10. Yeah, this is it. This is how this works. 10 is the most likely spot, 68% chance. We're going to do this a bunch of times. Like, I'm going to simulate this a bunch of times. I really only do it once. Maybe on some show we'll do it 4 times and talk about 4 different permutations, but I think with expectations, this is where they're going to be. They're probably going to be at 10 and 11. And the question isn't like, at least for me, the question isn't like, what should they have done in the past? It is now very much so, what do they do in the future? They already did the things they did. They already made the decisions they made to get themselves with an 82% chance of picking 10 or 11. Now it's, how do they navigate with this? And one of the ways you navigate with it is balancing immediate impact versus future impact, balancing best player available versus needed skill sets, and balancing what a trade package could entail. Like what if 10 plus something else on the roster gets you closer to where you want to be, or a better overall outcome, you're balancing that. And I think that's what it is about for the Blazers moving forward. It's the general balance of who they are. And what they want to be. And I think one of the interesting things, and we won't know this for a while, probably until friggin' June, if not further, is like, what do they want to be? What do they view themselves as, and how do they balance those decisions? We'll do more draft stuff in the future, but in tomorrow's episode, we're going to do our next player profile, talking Sterling Henderson, your boy Sterling Henderson, Scooter, with our recap of Scoot's sophomore season. Come back for that show 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.